so rarely does anybody actually talk about the philosophy of why we decentralize. Usually it's about how you make money, or it's about how you build a community, or it's about how you stay relevant. But very rarely is it, what is the practical and thoughtful reason on why we decentralize, and what is the spiritual and emotional reason on why we decentralize? I'm going to be bold enough to say that for the next 10 minutes, I'm on holy ground. I'm taking off my shoes, and I'm doing something I've never done. And I'm going to start my talk on my knees, just declaring to the Creator of all things, may I be wise and effective with what I'm about to share. Today I was interviewing Donald Lim, and he said something very nice to me. He said, "Ian, you're a prophet." You know, in technology, we call prophetic people futurists. And, spiritual communities have always called people with intuition prophets. Now, I'm not a foreigner from America. I'm not an American prophet to come shine the light for all of those in Southeast Asia to know something that America knows. If anything, I'm a prophet of a different kingdom. I'm a prophet that ideally would come to tell you what the Creator might have in His heart for you and your people. Why your country will benefit so greatly from the philosophy of decentralization and the theology of decentralization. And to keep things engaging, I will go back and forth on my board talking about the practical thoughts and the supernatural spiritual beliefs on why decentralization makes a lot of sense. And so let me begin. Let me begin with a story. All of you know about comic books, right? You know the story of Superman? His planet's about to erupt. His parents put him in a capsule. They send him off, and then he lands on Earth. And then he becomes the superhero, right? Well, that story was based off of someone. I wasn't there. I don't know if it's a real story, but it's said in the sacred scriptures about a man named Moses. And Moses, all the baby boys are being killed. And so Moses' parents put him in a little boat and put him in the river, and the Pharaoh's daughter found Moses and made Moses his own son. Now, when Moses took all of the Israelites out of Egypt, what happened was he was in total control, and Moses had centralized power. Whatever Moses said God wanted, that's what happened. Whatever Moses said was supposed to happen, that's what happened. And so Moses had complete, total dictatorship, tyrant control over everything that happens in all of the Israelites' life in the desert. And what happened? Moses' father-in-law came to him and said, "Son, this is not good. It is not good for you alone to have all this power and control. You should pick 10, and those 10 should pick 10. And each of those 100 should pick 10. And each of those 1,000 should pick 10. And you, my son, should decentralize power." That's the theology. You see, the theology is, it is not good for an individual person or business to have all that power. And it seems as though, starting with Moses, who in many ways is the father of both the Christian, Catholic, and Jewish faiths, as well as has a lot of impact on the Islamic faiths, that person with all that centralized power, that the theology was, it is not good. How about practically? Was it good for Moses to have all that power? Was that a wise thing for one man to be in control of all those people out in the desert? I would say practically, that's not a good thing. That it was way too much for one man to bear. That regardless of his spiritual belief, even if Moses was an atheist, It doesn't matter. It's not good for one man to carry the burden of all those decisions. One man should not have every single person coming to him with all of their ideas and their thoughts and their input and their feedback. And so practically, philosophically, it made a lot of sense for Moses to decentralize power. Let me tell you another story. There was a man, I wasn't there, I don't know exactly what happened, but supposedly 2,000 years ago, there was a man named Jesus from Nazareth. And that man, all of his people that followed him around, they thought he was going to take down Rome and he was going to make the Jewish people and the Jewish synagogue powerful. And so they're like, here's our king. He's coming to build the Israelite, Hebrew, Jewish kingdom. But that's not what he did. So what did Jesus decide to do? Jesus decided that he would destroy everything that the Jewish people stood for in the synagogue, that he would fight against everything the Romans were doing with the government, and that he would also assault everything that was happening in the business world. You think they killed Jesus for fun? You think they nailed him to a cross and murdered him because they just had nothing better to do? No, they killed him because he was assaulting every single belief that was in place 2,000 years ago. And what did he say to his disciples? It is better for me to leave, because when I am gone, the 12 of you and the 144 of you, and eventually the thousands and millions and now more than 1 billion humans claim to follow Jesus as Catholics and Christians and spiritual mystics. He said, it's better for me to leave, because when I leave, I will decentralize the mantle upon my life. I will take the power and authority I have to do signs and wonders, the power and authority that I have to do miracles, to do healings, to heal both emotionally and physically. And I will give you, my disciples, you, my followers, that power. I will decentralize power from me, and I will give you the power. That's the theology. That's the theology. You see? Now, what's the philosophy? Now, let's just say that Jesus was an atheist, which is kind of weird to even think about. But let's say that Jesus never talked about spiritual things. Why does it practically make sense for the spiritual leader that's made a bigger impact on the entire world? This individual that we know as Jesus of Nazareth never wrote a book, never wrote a song, never built a statue, never did a sculpture, never did a painting, never wrote poetry, never held a political office, never started a business. He was literally a homeless man that had a bunch of people following him around, and he had all that power. Power to raise the dead, power to multiply food. He had all that power. Now, why does it philosophically make sense for that man with all of that power to give the power away to others? You can ask Google or ChatGPT anything you want to know. Moses had nothing. He'd go up in a mountain, wait for this mysterious God to speak to him. Jesus was a homeless man, constantly hungry, constantly thirsty. No internet, no access to the knowledge of the world. You have so much before you. Will you, not all of you, but you right now listening to me, will you make the decision to think about the philosophy and the theology of why decentralization matters? Because if you don't change your family, and if you don't change in your business, the government's not going to do it. It starts with your home. It starts with your corporation. It starts with your university. And if you will not make the change, do not expect the government to do it. The government will follow the people. Be part of the change. That is your opportunity. And I might raise my voice, but I'm not mad at you. I just want to make sure you hear me loud and clear. I believe in you. I believe this country is destined for greatness. I believe in 1,000 years people will talk about this time in this country, about what your generation is about to do. Will you be part of it or not? Because you're welcome to. And I thank you for your attention.